February 25, 1986. This date holds special significance to the Filipino people.
But why?
Finally, Marcos made his first move. A column of loyal Marines moved up the highway to Camp Crome. But the trucks and armored personnel carriers were met with an amazing display of what General Ramos called people power.
The People Power Revolution. This revolution is known throughout history as being one of the most peaceful ones, despite the bloody decade that preceded this event. It was a symbol of hope for many Filipinos, a symbol of change and freedom. The following year, the government reformed from the dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos to the democratic government of Corazon Aquino. Democracy has been associated with the word freedom. To many Filipinos, it's the same thing. Democracy brought back their basic rights after 1986, after all. We often celebrate the EDSA Revolution as another Independence Day. But what does it really mean? The known founders of democracy were the ancient Athenians back in the 5th century BCE, when Cleisthenes introduced a new system of political reforms called democratia, meaning rule by the people. The system where all male citizens had equal political rights, freedom of speech, and the opportunity to participate directly in the political arena. So technically, it's not inclusively to all people, but rather to the political rights of male Athenians. Although Athenian democracy didn't last long and ended around 460 BC in General Pericles' ruling, it did evolve, however, into aristocracy, and Herodotus called the one man the best. Despite of the democratic state in Greece did not survive, it's been influencing governments ever since. Let's go back when the Americans colonized the Philippines in the year 1898. Filipinos worked under the American administration and quickly grasped the concept of self-government. By the time Commonwealth came into existence between 1917 and 1935, political parties were formed, and people were educated into accepting the principles of democracy, which meant having a ruling party and an opposition. But the democratic system that developed did not represent the majority of the population. When the Philippine Commonwealth was inaugurated in 1935 under a democratic constitution, it was patterned after the United States bicameral system. For most Filipinos, American-style democracy meant little more than elections every few years. Well, this practice did not die so much, didn't it? As written in history, Philippine elections were characterized by vote buying.
Eksklusibong nakapanayam ng GMA News ang team leader ng isang kandidato sa pagka-mayor sa Metro Manila tungkol sa pamimili ng boto.
Vote rigging.
The month campaign period that preceded today's election had been the most vicious and divisive in recent memory. Allegations of fraud were already being thrown, even before the election has started. That's why Filipinos are keeping a close watch on their votes.
And the use of private armies to intimidate voters.
Yes, Mikey, nagkaroon ng tensyon kanina dito sa loob mismo ng isa sa mga polling center sa Cotabato City, dito mismo sa loob mismo ng Cotabato City Institute.
The results of that is most Filipinos, they argue, did not understand the concept of democracy. For them, it meant being paid to vote for a candidate at elections. But thankfully, late President Ramon Magsaysay restored faith in Philippine democracy after being the first one to have a fairly conducted election in history. It all started with the late President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law in 1972.
As of the 21st of this month, I signed Proclamation number 1081, placing the entire Philippines under martial law.
Under the statement of saving the country from communist and Muslim insurgencies. Since democracy was easy to revoke, it has been argued that it had not in fact taken root in the Philippines. Marcos argued that the democratic system would not allow him to develop the new society he desired for the Philippines. For him, the practice of democracy was energy-consuming and time-wasting. Authoritarian rule allowed him to make the changes he wanted without having to endure democratic procedures. Freedom, which was a fundamental principle of democracy, was taken from Filipinos.
We all realize that more is required of each and every one of us to redeem our promises and proceed to create a truly just society for our people. This is just the beginning.
We couldn't say that it was restored, but was reconstituted. The Constitution had many similarities with the 1935 American-inspired Constitution, has several important provisions especially made for the armed forces. It emphasized the stipulation that active duty officers cannot participate in government. When Aquino's term ended in 1992, she proudly claimed that she had achieved her goal of restoring democracy to the Philippines and stated in her valedictory State of the Nation address,
This is the glory of democracy, that its most solemn moment should be the peaceful transfer of power.
But did democracy process in the minds of the Filipinos? Does the annual celebration of EDSA Power help Filipinos fully understand what democracy is all about? Or are we just romanticizing the struggle and achievement after the oppression we went under a former dictator, rather than celebrating the realization of what democracy means in the Filipino context?